Cheers.
Cheers.
To our last Midnight's video. Wow, it's been a ride.
Oh my God, it's been a long ride too.
I feel like we've really given this album what it deserved.
We have. And on that note, guys, today we are here with a very important final Midnight's video. And the reason that it's important is because we have come to the end of breaking down every single song on Midnight's, except for Hits Different and You're Losing Me, which we will discuss in today's video. But, you know, so much has happened.
So much has happened.
On this journey of breaking
a while.
down. You know, when this album came out, what, 8 months ago now? We started breaking it down 6 months ago now. And, like, the things that we've said and the things that we've fathomed, much has changed. Much in Taylor's life has changed. Perceptions of what this album really is and what it means has changed. And we felt like we needed to sit and re-fathom with you guys.
Absolutely.
So today is a Midnight's re-fathoming and discussion.
I love how there always has to be a fathoming first.
Always.
For there to be a re-fathoming.
Absolutely.
And look, we're forever re-fathoming because Miss Swift is a mastermind and like we can't possibly have ever fully figured out everything that she's doing.
Oh gosh, no. We are still re-fathoming previous albums as well. But
absolutely.
We're lucky enough to have the opportunity to re-fathom as she re-records them. But Midnight's, we're not going to have that opportunity.
No, so we
here
better get all the fathoming done, guys. This is why we need to flesh it out.
We gotta get some fathoming done.
And it really is my favorite concept album that she's ever done. I mean, obviously all of her albums are superior, but this concept really is just...
No, it really is fantastic. And I think that the concept has really settled in and like, you know, I understood the concept when the album came out, but once again, we're here today because it makes more sense with things that have happened that really like, I simply, the way that this concept has solidified itself now
and unfolded
versus what it was when the album was released. I couldn't have fully fathomed what this concept was until now.
You're so right. You're so right. It makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, it does.
And you know, something that I really want to start off with is a few weeks ago on our Patreon, we actually put up a video talking about the little insert that comes with the album, and we had a whole moment of fathoming it. So check that out if you haven't.
It's really a lot to see what she has said in this album, and we will talk a little bit about it today. But just to finish my prefacing,
sorry.
No, that's okay. Today is really just going to be a discussion. We're not going to listen to any music. We're really just going to discuss lyrics, concepts, what this album is, and like I said, re-fathom.
Yeah, we're
re-fathoming. It's just a little chatty chat.
Absolutely, it's just
this
a chat.
This is the chats in the chats and reacts. Today there will be no reacting, only chatting.
Only chatting.
Only chatting.
You know, this little preface, the what keeps you up at night, is really, really quite fucked up. You should go and read it again if you haven't. But something that I wanted to really hone in on and focus on was what she starts with, which is, it's a momentary glimmer of distraction, the tiniest notion of reminiscent thought that wanders off into wondering, the spark that lights the tinderbox of fixation, and now it's irreversible. The flame has caught, you're wide awake. And this really fucked me up when I realized that that is actually what this image here, and that's what that lighter represents, and that's what that flame represents, is her thought in the middle of the night, in the middle of the darkness. All she can focus on is
the flame
thought
that has caught, which is the thought in her mind.
Totally. The fixation on whatever it is that she keeps ruminating about, which obviously is all the different songs and all the different thoughts that she had at midnight or 3 a.m. or till dawn. It's
depending on which version of the album you'd like to call back to.
It's really fucked up, guys. We've really been discussing how now with Hits Different and You're Losing Me, at first we thought maybe she's going back through you know, her past relationships and kind of fathoming things because of the re-records. That was our first kind of initial thought process.
Yeah, we were like, it makes perfect sense that as she's going back and singing these songs again, she's really processing things in a new light, and what happened to her at previous times in her life. And it just felt so obvious to us to then assume that the whole reason that she's done an album like this is because she's doing that. No longer.
Obviously, with the breakup news and getting Hits Different and You're Losing Me, we've really fathomed that she's actually most probably going back through these past experiences to try to make sense of her current situation, her current breakdown of the relationship. We really do feel like the breakdown with Joe happened over a long period of time, potentially, you know, the whole year of 2022.
Which really is what You're Losing Me is about. And before we do talk about this song and its lyrics and stuff, we do want to say that our reaction to that song will be up as soon as possible. It really depends on Taylor and when she decides to make it public.
When it's on streaming, we'll pop up our reaction.
It'll be here. But we will be touching on some lyrics and stuff today. You're Losing Me really is that exact concept. It's not a breakup song.
No.
But this has been in the air the air is thick with loss and indecision is a literal lyric from that song.
And this is the whole fucking album.
And we really feel like that lyric actually embodies what this entire album is. Like there's something that's going wrong. They're trying very hard to find a cure. Nothing's happening.
So she's stuck
trying to
thinking
figure it out.
And God, that is such a relatable feeling. I think if you've ever been in a long-term relationship where you feel like you know the end is coming, but you don't know how to possibly make that choice, or you don't know if it's you, right? Which is where we really start to explore the themes in this album of self-loathing and exploring her own role in the relationship, which is the whole, anti-hero, really. Which makes so much more sense now that she is like, before it's like it made sense that she's fathoming herself, but it makes a lot more sense that she's fathoming herself whilst she's trying to decide if she's the problem or if the relationship is the problem.
Absolutely. And to your point, I think that now that we understand and have the context of her relationship breaking down and the breakup having happened, like this is such a relatable concept for anybody, I think, who's been in a long-term relationship, like it really is something that Taylor herself has probably never experienced prior to this, which is why this is such a new concept and a new album for her. Like Red was the breakup album for a relationship that lasted a couple of months. And so she'd never really been in a position before where she could write about, well, what is this feeling when I've actually now built my whole life around somebody who I thought I was going to be with forever, and I'm no longer happy? How do I make sense of this, and what is the right decision here?
Totally.
So I will go back and I will think about what went wrong in my last relationships. And like you said, is the problem me? Am I unhappy because of my tendencies, because the tomb won't close? Because
I bring things up constantly because it's like the Great War. Because I can't be happy with anything. It's never enough.
Or is it you?
Is it you?
Is it this relationship? Is it just that you're actually not the right person for me, and I've got to come to terms with the fact that the person that I thought was going to be my forever
we outgrown each other?
Is no longer my forever.
It's like that falling out of love with someone even though you don't want to be. It's like she wanted him to do something different, to change, or to, to give her what it is that she actually needed in order to continue to grow together. It's a very, very relatable concept. And I think Midnight's was kind of masked as something else because she didn't know yet, I think.
Absolutely.
And it makes so much sense why she held Hits Different from us.
100%. Truly, I've been thinking about this. Like, we, at the time when Hits Different was obviously released just on the Target edition of Midnights, were so desperate to have it on streaming because we heard it and we just absolutely loved it. It's one of our favorite songs from Midnights. And our initial takeaway from that song is, oh, it must just be another song reflecting on the beginning of Taylor's relationship with Joe, something that she's done so many times in so many songs about Joe. No.
It's
This
now.
is definitely a now situation.
And it actually makes so much more sense. Like,
it does.
Oh my God. Like I actually kind of feel dumb because like it hits different because it's you.
Yeah.
Like
love is a lie.
Love
because
is a
your
lie.
friends have seen you
Yeah.
go through this whole
Yeah.
relationship, write all these albums about this man,
Yeah.
and now things aren't working out. No wonder her friends are saying love is a lie.
Totally.
That's what our reaction was as a fandom when we heard the breakup news, because we didn't think this would happen.
Ever
And
happen.
as you said, she wasn't ready to admit that
No.
yet. But an important distinction that I think we need to make is that because of all of this, we don't think that Midnights is a breakup album, but it is a processing of maybe we are breaking up album.
Yeah.
It is not a breakup
Which
album
just
like
makes it
Red.
so different to anything she's ever done and so fucking brilliant because
Yeah.
I love that she had the courage to put this album out when she didn't actually know what
is
was going
so
to happen.
vulnerable.
So brave. Oh
Yeah.
my God, so vulnerable. And when she said that in that interview on Jimmy Fallon, I think it was.
Yes.
She's like, I'm feeling I'm feeling a bit sensitive, a bit vulnerable.
I think she said a bit fragile, even.
fragile.
It was one of those sorts of words.
This is why Taylor's so fucked up though. She does continue to release music even when it's like uncertain or like she doesn't have all the answers. I think she really learnt that from Folklore, right? And she's continued to do that with Midnights. She just put it out. She just gave it to us, even if she didn't have all the answers.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it a really complicated and raw and deep album. Maybe we should have a deeper dive into Hits Different now,
cool.
and then we can go into You're Losing Me and go
And
into
discuss
all of
all of
that.
that.
Hits Different is so superior sonically. We know that Jack and Aaron worked on this, which, you know, it's a blessed time when we get those two superior men coming together.
And it's just a fucking bop. Like,
It is.
despite this re-fathoming of Midnights right now, like, just focusing on what this song sounds like, it's an early 2000s reminiscent
movie
bop.
kind of song. Oh.
People are thinking it might be on the Barbie movie soundtrack. Blah, blah.
That would be offensive because it has the Ken's lyric.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, I actually think it is the sound of this as well that on first listen, or honestly, like up until we got You're Losing Me, made me think that, or rather contributed to my thought of this being maybe more a reflection on the beginning of their relationship rather than a present day thing. Obviously because we didn't have the context of the breakup, but because it's such an upbeat bop.
She was hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, she was hiding in plain sight. I was thrown by the production on this song. It feels happy. I mean, it's just another sad bop, right?
No,
and she's got so many of them.
Yeah, even though the lyrics are really quite intense.
They are quite intense.
And really make a lot of sense that she would write this song about the Joe, you know, the one.
Absolutely.
So the first verse, we have these, let's just have a little read of the lyrics, shall we?
Read.
I washed my hands of us at the club, you made a mess of me. I pictured you with other girls in love, then threw up on the street. So this is all taking place like when on a night out, this first verse. And you know, the more I think about it, because I know you've said to me before that you feel like this song is like kind of one night. And I actually do think I might agree now.
To an extent, I think there are feelings explored in this song that obviously span a greater period of the breaking down of the relationship, but especially this first verse.
Yeah.
What I get from this first verse now is really like, maybe there's been another fight, or maybe for the first time, maybe there was multiple times they broke up. Maybe there was on and off as they were trying to figure this all out. And this is one of those days when that's happened again. Yeah. And she's thinking this is the final time now. Like it's actually over now. And she's gone out, drunk a bit too much.
It could even be the night where she thought that she almost lost him. The night I almost thought I lost you.
The Great War. Yep.
I pictured you with other girls. Like it just comes into my mind that you might be, what if you were with another girl one day and I threw up on the street?
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of cool because it's like maybe she's had a really big night out and she's actually throwing up because she's drunk.
Yeah.
Or the thought of that actually brings it on as well.
Whether or not it really happened or it didn't, or whether it's a reflection of her intoxication or actually just her emotions over this whole breakup, I think that it is a very relatable lyric.
Yeah.
Once again, just that feeling of having been with somebody for so many years, you've made them your world, you feel like they're going to be your forever, you're realizing that they're not.
You picture them with other girls.
Then you start picturing them with someone else.
Oh
like,
my God, what a horrible
disgusting.
thing to do to yourself. Like waiting for a bus that never shows, you just start walking on. I think that this lyric is interesting because it's kind of once again got that double meaning. Like she could be waiting for the bus on the way home from a night out, and it never comes, so you just start walking on, and it's like, you know, you're really upset, you're alone, you're just walking home, you don't even give a fuck anymore. But it's also metaphorical for like him not maybe showing up in the relationship, her waiting for him to do something, say something.
Once again, This Is How You're Losing Me has really helped us refathom this song, because absolutely, that's exactly, it's that avoidance, right? It's the fact that you never say anything. It's the fact that you never do anything.
Totally.
Like, I'm always waiting for you to show up for me and you just do not. I also think that this lyric also makes me recall the bridge in Dear Reader now as well, where she's like, wander through these nights, something for hiding in plain sight, you know, to a house all alone, to a house not a home all alone because nobody's there.
You're right, like, she's drinking in Dear Reader. That's a night out drinking. And
my fourth drink in my hand. It's actually a very similar image that I have come to mind of her having had maybe a little bit too much to drink and just walking through the night because I'm alone now. Yeah.
And, you know, we've talked about how the beginning of 2022 was when Taylor was really quiet. We didn't know what was going on with her. She put up that TikTok with those lyrics in the background that says, like, it's just a little thing, I'll see you soon. She looked a bit sad. She was doing that NYU speech where she was very emotional and she kind of gave us nuggets about you're on your own, kid. And we really feel like she might have been going through it. At the beginning of 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes sense because she even said when she released Midnights, on the day that she released Midnights, that her and Jack were in New York alone because both of their partners, both Jack and Margaret, filmed a movie together at the same time. That was at the start of that year, and they were stuck in New York and they wrote an album together, which was Midnights. So now we can really understand and grasp with the context of what this album really means now, that there must have been issues back then.
Yes.
Because otherwise, how was she writing this?
Maybe that's why we didn't get a re-record. Yeah. That whole
There was too much going on.
We didn't get a re-record that year.
Yeah, yeah.
So, very interesting.
Very interesting.
You know, this lyric I've been thinking about quite a bit. They say that if it's right, you know, each bar plays our song, nothing has ever felt so wrong. I think that they say if it's right, you know, reminds me actually of like Jack and how he wrote a song probably around the same time of saying if you know, you know. I've thought about this. Is like if you know, you know. Like just if you're having second thoughts, just run. Yeah. And so it's interesting considering they were writing this album together. That I wonder if she was looking around at even Jack and Margaret and thinking he just knows. Yeah, I don't fucking know. And I'm stuck here with indecision. I can't possibly know. And so really interesting. But then it kind of is like contrasted with each bar plays our song, nothing has ever felt so wrong.
Yeah. So she's like, well, I don't know right now, but this feels very
that we're breaking up. Also, each bar plays our song. This is such an indication, I feel, that it's more recent as well, because like all the songs that she's written about him, like what if she's referring to Lover?
That is so true.
Or, you know, any of the other million songs that she's written about him playing in the clubs or playing out and about, everyone else dancing and singing to them.
I hadn't thought about it like that. And this is why this song is so interesting, once again, like with that original context where we thought it was about the start of the relationship. Like you can take this lyric as just a song that they really loved and they had decided that it was their song, and it was also maybe just a popular song at the time that was playing everywhere. But no, you're so right. It's like we're now at a point in her career where she's written so many songs about this relationship specifically, her own songs, and if she hears them out and they're about Joe and she's going through this breakup,
our song, like, and imagine like having written a song about someone and it's Lover and then like everyone's fucking getting married to it and you're just like,
that's just painful. Isn't that just painful? Isn't that just painful? And
it's really quite
horrific.
Do you know what? It's really
Lover
quite horrific.
and paper rings, there's much to discuss there with You're Losing Me. There's much to discuss.
Love how this builds into the chorus. Nothing has ever felt so wrong. Oh my, what the fuck is happening? She is the most illegal human.
The melodies in this song are so fucked up, I can't even believe it.
No. It's just a brilliant chorus, isn't it? Oh my, love is a lie. Shit my friends say to get me by. It hits different. It's just genius. A genius concept. Everyone has been there where you're just falling apart. Your friends say, don't worry, love is a lie. He wasn't worth it. All of this stuff. Shit they say to get me by. It hits different though. Yeah. You know, I can't hear that anymore. Yeah. This time, it's not working because it's you.
Yeah. The one I thought was my forever. This is so different from every other relationship she's ever been in before.
No, she's so sneaky, you know, because when we first heard this and we're like, oh yeah, it's about the beginning, blah, blah, blah. I was like, if she ever wrote a song like breaking up with Joe, like it would be like different, right? Like it would hit fucking different because like she's never experienced this and she just masked it like this. She's so sneaky.
Like you said before, hiding in plain sight. Like it was right here this whole time. And everyone was still shocked by the breakup. Like, it's actually, it's quite funny, really.
And
it's actually quite funny.
It's actually quite funny. We're just like, oh, lol.
Like, what?
Lol. But I do think that she's kind of been telling us little things all along. And we've been like, it's fine. Catastrophic blues is also a massive indicator that, of course, this is about Joe now. Because she has sung about him being blue and blues, connecting their relationship so much. So, catastrophic blues.
Yeah.
I'm feeling so blue. I'm feeling so sad. Moving on was always easy for me to do, you know, even though she might have felt pain a lot of the time in the past, she actually processed it relatively quickly.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because, you know, we know that she's been through heartbreak and pain with relationships. I mean, this is exactly what the vast majority of her discography is about. But given the context that we know that so many of these relationships only lasted a few months, and to your point with the Calvin Tom thing, like she's kind of sort of hopped from one guy to the next, right?
Yeah, because even though she might have been feeling really intensely about it, she's still always called it when she's called it and left when she's still left.
Moving on.
Yeah. Oh my God,
what
this guitar is just... It's just fucked up. I don't know what you want me to do. It's so fucked up. Second verse. I used to switch out these Kens. I'd just ghost. Rip the Band-Aid off and skip town like an asshole outlaw. I want to say it like an Australian, but I can't.
Asshole. Yeah. These lyrics are literally moving on was always easy for me to do. She's literally saying like, it was so easy for me to move on, switch out these cans, rip the Band-Aid off and skip town like an asshole outlaw feels like a direct correlation to Getaway Car. Feeling like a criminal, taking the money in the bag and I stole the keys, you know, and so it literally is really just a repetition.
I love that she's saying switch out these Kens. Like these men were just playthings, you know, that's what they were.
Playthings for me to use. Yeah. Oh my God, you're so right. Absolutely.
Freedom felt like summer then on the coast. Now the sun burns my heart and the sand hurts my feelings. I just love this lyric. I think it's such a clever way of saying that something that used to be, once again, easy for her to move on. She didn't get too caught up in things. Now that she's using summer as like kind of the example of that.
Freedom felt like summer, which is interesting because it's not even necessarily that they're in summer.
No, you're right.
Freedom is as good as summer. The sun, the sand, everyone's happy, it's warm, you know, and it really reminds me even of like those pictures of her leaving the gym the day after she broke up with Calvin Harris and she just looks so free and happy. It's quite interesting. But then it is also interesting because that whole breakdown happened over summer as well. The whole Calvin to Tom to Joe cruel summer. So not only is it that that specific scenario, especially if it's meant to sort of be in continuation on from the Getaway Car situation, it did happen in summer, but the freedom doesn't have to be happening in summer. It can just feel like summer. But now the sun burns my heart and the sand hurts my feelings. Like, there's nothing good about summer. All this freedom, this freedom doesn't feel good.
Freedom burns my heart and hurts my feelings because she's using summer as the metaphor for freedom. You're right. No, that's fucked up.
Oh, my sadness is contagious.
Yeah, then we go back to the kind of the night, right?
Yes, the night.
I never don't cry at the bar. My sadness is contagious. I love these little backing vocals that come in there. It like repeats after each lyric there.
My sadness is contagious.
So offensive.
No, the backing vocals in this song are really fucked up.
These lyrics are really interesting because obviously she's saying like, I'm always crying whenever I'm out. Like I can't stop thinking about you. My sadness is contagious really reminds me of the lyric in Bigger Than the Whole Sky where she says, everything I touch becomes sick with sadness.
You're right.
So that's very curious actually, because now I'm thinking.
Yeah. No, Bigger Than the Whole Sky has always been a really big question mark on this album. And, you know, I think that it's really valid, as we spoke about in our breakdown, to feel like Bigger Than the Whole Sky could be about more than just the breakdown of a relationship. I don't think we can just write it off as though it's just not about a relationship because it's so deeply sad. Because I think that there is room for her to have been that upset.
Yeah, I agree.
Over realizing that this is no longer working.
I think you're right. She's really just saying in this second part of the verse that she's just bringing everyone down no matter where she is, no matter what they're doing.
Yeah.
She can't help, especially when she has a few drinks in her, to be so upset about this situation.
And this reminds me again in the bridge of Dear Rita when she says, my friends found friends who care, because I think it would make a lot of sense that like maybe during this breakdown of the relationship, she's so focused on her own emotions and her own sadness that she doesn't even have the time or energy to like put into her friendships.
I stopped receiving invitations. Oh, then we have this fucked up bridge.
No, this bridge is the most fucked up thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
She really fucked us up with the bridges on these on both of these tracks.
No, both of these tracks have some of the best bridges I've ever heard in my whole life. No, seriously, it's actually offensive. Like if you thought about like every new song on Midnights on an actual physical edition together, because it doesn't exist, but like it would go like Dear Rita, Hits Different, You're losing me. Those three bridges together, somebody help.
Somebody
like,
help.
What the fuck is that?
Somebody
Those
help.
3 bridges in a row is actually too much to deal with.
Oh my God,
but this
you're
one
right.
just goes through so many melodies and she changes it so many times. It's so fucking good.
It's so
What
fucking
is this
good.
bridge? No.
I find the artifacts, cried over a hat, cursed the space that I needed. Oh, God, it's just everything, guys. It's really just everything. It really takes us back to maybe the fact that they weren't in the same country when she was writing Midnight.
Yeah.
You know, so Joe was over filming and she finds the artifacts, cried over a hat. Maybe one of his hats, she picks it up and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're away. Curse the space that I needed. I wish that we were together, but I actually need this space to process what we want to do here.
I even wonder as well if like, and this is also maybe with the context of You're Losing Me and really understanding from that song that this was happening over maybe quite a longer period of time. If there was a moment of her being like, you're giving me nothing, but I'm not ready to fully let go. I need a break from all of this. Like, so that's the space that I need.
Yeah.
And it might not be like the final breakup.
No.
But it is, you know,
there's a shift.
There's a shift.
A massive
and I
shift.
think that might even be what Hits Different is.
Yeah.
You know, it could just be a break.
Yeah.
More than it is the break up.
It could.
And that's why we got it.
But can I just say as well, I find this lyric so relatable for the anxious girlies. Like, I'm so upset that you're not here. Like, I'm thinking about your belongings. I'm holding your belongings. I'm crying over it. But I actually do need the space. Like, I just love this lyric. I think it's such a genius way of expressing what she's going through.
You know, I actually feel so silly as well now with how I first fathomed this song, because the word artifacts also implies that they're objects that have been around for a long time.
Yes.
Not just something that was in her house, like, and she dated him casually for a few weeks and then it was over.
Oh my God, you're right.
And
Artifacts.
it's his things that have been in the house for years. They're artifacts,
what
right?
a fucked up word to use.
Yeah. Even I trace the evidence. You know, that's a really interesting even thing to like link back to like artifacts. It feels like once again it's like I'm having to fathom something over a long period of time, you know,
and
like
also it kind of reminds me of Midnights. I trace the evidence.
That is the re-fathoming of the previous relationship. Where is the evidence? What is the evidence?
I am in the problem.
Yes.
Or that this is the problem. What is the evidence?
Make it make some sense why the wound is still bleeding. Like, I don't understand why this is still hurting so much because I'm used to moving on very easily. I'm trying to make sense of this by retracing the evidence, and that is the writing of Midnights. That is this album. No, it's actually...
It's really
so concerning.
So concerning.
Hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. It's all here. You are the one that I loved. Don't need another metaphor. It's simple enough. And isn't that perfect for this relationship too?
Perfect for
Once
Joe.
Again, I've never been in a relationship like this. I've never been through a breakup like this. I never thought this would happen to you and me.
Totally.
I don't need another metaphor.
No, and it really reminds me of how she used like red, the metaphor of red for Jake. Like,
Yes.
just like, and like the out of the woods metaphor for Harry. Like, she's used so many metaphors. Getaway car
is what she does to express the emotions of her relationships in her entire discography.
She's
and
like,
this is just like, I don't need one. I actually don't need one for this, because it's like,
you are it. You are the one.
You are the one.
But you know, it's interesting that she says, you were the one that I loved. She's not saying, you are the one that I love. Don't need another metaphor. It's simple enough. She's saying, you were, and in You're Losing Me, she's saying, my heart won't start anymore for you.
You know, it's interesting that she then goes on to say a wrinkle in time, like the crease by your eyes. And I've seen someone put up on TikTok how interesting it is that she says that she doesn't need another metaphor, but immediately follows it with a simile.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
That is tea.
She's like, I still need to do something.
Yeah.
But it won't be a metaphor this time.
You know, but also a wrinkle in time. A wrinkle in time.
I think she's really...
It's kind of giving glitch. It's kind of giving a love blackout.
You're absolutely right.
A wrinkle in time.
You're
it's like,
absolutely
it's
right.
like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. No, you
I've
absolutely.
never fathomed that lyric. A wrinkle in time, like the crease by your eye.
Yeah.
Which Joe, I've always loved as well, because Joe does have quite a crinkly smile. When he smiles, his eyes really crinkle.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cute.
Written so many lyrics about his eyes as well.
Taylor uses this reference to describe how she's feeling at the end of the relationship. She's still not over it and feels like she is stranded in the past, as if there's been a wrinkle in time.
That's interesting, because it's kind of giving... Right Where You Left Me.
Yeah.
Which, once again, is what this song is. You know, she's like deeply upset over the breakdown of this relationship. She's not moving on. That's what she's saying. Moving on was always easy for me to do. But this hits different. I'm stuck in time with you.
This is why they shouldn't kill off the main guy. I actually really love this lyric, because obviously she's saying, like, you're the one.
Yeah.
Killing off the main guy is obviously a bad thing
You're
to do
the
in a
main
movie
character.
or a TV show.
We are the main characters.
Yeah, you are the main
You're
character.
not meant to go anywhere.
No, but I also love it because he's an actor.
Yes.
So that's really interesting as well.
Yes, you're right. And, you know, I also think it's interesting as well, because there has been a few lyrics throughout her songwriting where she kind of links back to like it being like a movie or whatever. Specifically in Exile, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending, which she wrote with Joe.
But I also love in Karma, where she's like, the guy on the screen coming straight home to me. And then we've got... this is why they shouldn't kill off the main guy.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Really interesting.
Yes.
And then this is where it switches in the melody, and it's so fucked up that she did this. Dreams of your hair and your stare and sense of belief. We know Joe's hair. It makes sense that she's dreaming about that.
Yeah.
Your stare.
The
we know
eyes
that she
again.
Loved, you know, the sense of belief lyric also really reminds me of other things that she said about Joe, like with like the integrity. Your integrity makes me seem small, and things like that. Like, it makes sense that maybe she felt like he had a belief in her and in the world at the beginning.
Yeah, well, and that's what she goes on to say. In the good in the world, you once believed in me. And, you know, I think that that's really interesting too, in the context of their relationship and the lyrics that we have about their relationship, stemming all the way back from Reputation. You know, we know that she had a fear right at the start of the fact that it's not going to work out. They said, I know there was no one in the world that could take it, kind of thing.
But also just the fact that he believed in her when no one else did.
Yeah, it's like, my reputation's never been worse, so you must like me for me. And I think that that was really something that it would make sense for her to hold on to in their relationship. You know, like, you don't listen to what's going on outside. You don't care about what other people say. You believe in me. And that's all I've ever really needed. And so, of course, she's going to be fucking depressed when the man who believed in her... she feels like he no longer does. He no longer wants to fight for her.
And she's having dreams of that. She's having dreams of his hair and his stare and his belief in her. Yeah. Like, those are the things that really stand out to her in this breakdown of missing him and wanting him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I felt you and I held you for a while. Ugh.
Which just reminds me of the wrinkle in time again, the glitch. You know, it's like, I'm really fathoming that, like, it was just for a time, not forever. Wow. Which is so depressing, honestly.
But then the way that this ends is so interesting, because then she says, but I could still melt your world, argumentative, antithetical, dream girl.
Do you know what? Can I just say, that's tea, because I always thought that lyric was but. but I could still melt your world. And it actually says here that it's bet I could still melt your world, which would make a lot of sense actually. That actually makes more sense to me now thinking about it, because if it was but, it kind of implies in my mind that it's like, oh, but I'm still going to reel you back in and we're still going to be together. But it's bet, which is like, I don't actually know, but you're not actually back, but I bet I could still melt your world because I had that effect on you once before.
Wow.
It's really interesting.
No, that is really interesting. And I love that at the end of that, she's still tying up, like, you felt this way about me too. Like, I could still melt your world. And also, like, the argumentative, antithetical dream girl, I think, is really telling of how the dynamic was in their relationship, in terms of maybe her being the one that is a little bit confrontational or reactive. Maybe she did feel like she was always kind of going at him, kind of coming at him. And maybe he liked that about her at the beginning.
And I was just going to say as well, we've been talking a lot about how it's usually the same things that you love about someone are also the same things that you hate, or rather it's like the parts of them that make them do the things that you love are also the parts of themselves that make them do the things that you dislike. And it would be true for her as well and him, you know. She's kind of like, I am frustrating and argumentative, and I think that you like my feistiness and how bold I am and strong I am as a woman, but my argumentative reactivity is also the reason that we might be ending. Peace. Is also the reason you can't have peace, And isn't that interesting too? Because I think that we've always taken peace to be like I'll never be able to give you peace because I am literally Taylor Swift, and like there's always going to be a sense of like privacy invasion, you know, like people are always going to, and I think that is what peace is. But I think it's also interesting to think about it from that perspective. Yeah, no,
I actually think that peace, the more I fathom, I think peace is actually more about the fact that she cannot calm the fuck down.
It makes sense even with lyrics like the tomb won't close, or like maybe it's the past that's talking, screaming from a crypt. Like, I'm never actually going to fully heal from my insecurities that make me reactive and argumentative. And so I'm never going to give you peace. I'm never going to get to a point where I am so 100% secure in our love that I'm not going to start some shit with you. Exactly. I'm always going to start some shit with you.
And I think that makes peace a lot more of a relatable concept, and why so many people connect with it. Like, it's not just about Taylor talking about her fame. It's about the fact that so many people have ghosts, have things that they can't let go of in relationships that cause, you know, them not to have a peaceful relationship. Then we have the third verse after the bridge, which is so offensive as well. She already gave us that ranty bridge, that ranting off bridge. Thank you, Jack. I know you're in there too. And then we go into a third verse, which is like so offensive when she does this. But this is really interesting. And I do think that this is where it brings us back to maybe being that same night. That same night of her being out, having a lot to drink, being kind of asleep, but not asleep because it's midnight. She's reminiscing, she's ruminating on the breakdown of the relationship, and she's thinking, I heard your key turn in the door down the hallway. Is that your key in the door? Is it okay? Is it you? All of these questions, right? Like hoping in her, like in her delirious state, that maybe he is coming home. Maybe he is opening the door. Or have they come to take me away? The opposite of that is like this really bad thing. It's like one or the other. And it's so interesting. That lyric is so interesting because it's like she's feeling so unhinged in her depression over this breakup that it's like someone's going to come and take me to like a mental ward. Like, I am not functioning okay right now. It's very interesting and really gives us a good indication of what her mindset was around the breakup of this. And I think that it's really, really, really important to understand that even with today's sort of happenings, you know, we got the breakup news whilst Taylor had already started the Eras tour. She seems really happy on stage. We've obviously been and gone with the whole Maddie Healy situation, and I think people are really quick to judge like what we're seeing happen now as like an indication of like she's moved on really fast, or she's doing fine or whatever. But like, you cannot
you cannot erase the pain that's in these two songs. It's here in these lyrics,
It is.
you know?
She's telling us right here.
She's telling us here.
You know, one of my favorite things about this song is the ending where it kind of like, it's like she's stepping away from the microphone when she does the, oh my, love is alive.
Yeah. It's not quite there.
It really reminds me of August and That's When. You know that I'm a fan of those two. So
yes.
it's just a fucked up way to end a song.
No, it is. It really is a fucked up way to end a song. And the fact that there's no production behind that last, like, it hits different because it's you. It's just like, nothing more to say. We don't need the bop behind it anymore.
It's just because
it's just
you.
like, it hits different because it's you.
And that's what I'm really like so dumb, I feel, for not understanding. Like, of course, this is about Joe now. Like, it hits different because it's you. The one that I've been with for 6 years, you. Not the one I first met you. Like, now. Also, something I was thinking about this morning when I was listening to Bigger Than the Whole Sky is it's interesting how the end of that chorus and the end of that song is, well, could have been you. And then Hits Different is doing the same thing. It's always ending with, because it's you.
You're right. Really that is very interesting.
Anyway,
very, very interesting.
Hits Different is the most offensive sounding song I've ever heard. But it's actually second because You're Losing Me is the most offensive
You're Losing
song I've
Me
ever heard.
has rocked our world.
Rocked our world, guys.
We seriously, when we heard Hits Different, we were like, oh my God, this is top 5 on the album. This is amazing. Like, could be my favorite. Oh my God, love it so much. You're Losing Me
is our favorite.
I cannot believe that song exists.
It's some of the best lyrics she's ever given us. Let's discuss, shall we? Because I really think that this one is going to help us go back to the other songs on the album a little bit more and kind of talk about how we might see them in a bit of a different light.
And this song really is the catalyst for this whole video. Before we dive into the lyrics, I just want to say about this song, what I love the most about it is the fact that she's got her heartbeat as part of the production, but lyrically continues to allude to like her actually being sick and dying and like almost like medical references. Even You're Losing Me, like when you're losing someone in hospital, like they're fading, they're starting to die, you know, the heart rate monitor's going out or whatever it is.
It's giving
you're
like
losing them.
Emergency room imagery and metaphor throughout the entire song.
And once again, I think is very important to emphasize how deeply hurt she was by the breakdown of this relationship, and not to just erase like what's been happening from what we've seen since we've gotten the news. Like, she literally felt like part of her was dying. That is what this song is. You say I don't understand and I say I know you don't. I already just need to stop there. Because this immediately, this song, so as I say, this song is the catalyst for this whole video. This song is making me rethink about so many different songs on Midnights. And straight off the bat, Bejeweled comes to my mind. You know, we've been talking as a fandom about this narrative of maybe he didn't understand her wanting to step back into the spotlight and really embrace her success and fame that she's achieved since like Folklore's come out and everything. And we know that obviously they started their relationship at a time when they wanted to be indoors because Taylor was like, the whole world hated me, but then they also went through quarantine and the whole pandemic together as well. And so coming out of that would have been the first time that they might have had to really explore, like, you know, being a little bit more public. And it feels like maybe
he didn't get that.
He didn't want that or understand why she'd want that, because that's not how their entire relationship had been. But she's like, I'm bejeweled. And we have really
she's like, I'm bejeweled.
Re-fathomed Bejeweled now and do feel
you're right.
that
that's one of the ones that we feel like we didn't
got wrong, honestly.
Yeah.
Like we don't think anymore that it is about the breakdown of the relationship with Calvin Harris and that Joe is the guy in the bridge. Some guy said my aura's moonstone. We really feel like maybe Bejeweled is like, no, I need to embrace this fame. I need to embrace this success, and you don't get it. And that's what these lyrics are here. You say I don't understand and I say I know you don't.
Totally. I also get from that, just in general, that dynamic between anxious avoidant, like they do not understand, like, or someone who's not as emotionally like maybe intelligent, like you're trying to express to them maybe like a need or something that you feel upset or triggered by, and they say, I don't understand. I do not get why you need this. I do not get how I need to be different in this situation. Which kind of leads on to the rest of the song, where I really feel like she's asking him to do something and he's not capable of giving her that.
And it's so interesting because I think her response being, I know you don't, is so fascinating, because I think that the assumption would be maybe throughout any issues in a relationship, you would want to try and make them understand, or you'd be fighting to get them to get it. And this is just like, I know you don't.
Yeah, I know you
like,
don't.
we're at that point now where you don't get it, and I've accepted that you don't get it.
I've
and
explained it to you so many times. I'm exhausted of trying to get you to understand me. You do not understand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We thought a cure would come through in time. Now I fear it won't. So this is that first indication that we have of like, I actually think that this relationship is not going to work. And once again, using the word cure really ties back into that like medical kind of terminology here. But also really indicates how long this has been going on for.
Which does make sense to like, you know, the whole kind of writing of Midnight's trying to fathom. I thought that, you know, I thought we'd survive the Great War. She really thought that it could be turned around, and which is why maybe she ended up releasing the album without this song on it.
Yeah, absolutely. These next lyrics are fucked up.
Yeah.
Remember looking at this room, we loved it because of the light. Now I just sit in the dark and wonder if it's time. This has been such a this has been such a lyric that's made us look at Midnight's differently too, because of course this could be, you know, physically a home that they shared together in a room with lighting and whatnot, but we also think it could be really metaphorical for their relationship, and the fact that on Lover, she has the song Daylight. Originally, the album was going to be called Daylight. Love is golden like daylight is what she says. And now Midnight is the middle of the night. The relationship's falling apart. I'm sitting in the dark in the middle of the night, wondering if it's time, and reminiscing on myself and my past relationships and trying to figure out what's going on here.
Totally.
It really feels like this lyric almost makes Midnight's the polar opposite to Lover. As two albums and two phases in her life. The love was golden like daylight, and now it's dark like midnight, because it's not working anymore.
Just fucked me up. Especially because Lover was going to maybe be called Daylight.
The album was going to be called.
And
Can
Midnight's
you imagine
is the
if we had Daylight and Midnight's as two album titles?
Every lyric in this song is actually like,
this song has just put everything into perspective. I feel like I've said this 10 times in this video already, but like it just has, and I just need to emphasize it, that like nothing made sense until hearing this song.
I understand.
And now everything makes sense.
She
and
really
I
needed to give it to us.
cannot believe that she gave it to us. Thank you, Taylor.
I need it on streaming.
I need it
so
on
badly.
streaming.
I need
so
it on
badly.
streaming.
Do I throw out everything we built or keep it? I'm getting tired, even for a phoenix always rising from the ashes, mending all her gashes. You might just have dealt the final blow.
What a way to say, I am so over trying to make it through breakups. I really thought that you were the one.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of King of My Heart, where she says, is this the end of all the endings? That hope that this was finally the one. And now you might have just dealt the final blow. Like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like, this might be the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me. Of love. Love is a lie.
No, love is a lie. That first line, just to touch on that quickly, do I throw out everything we built or keep it, is so relatable. I think that anyone who's been in a long-term relationship can really relate and understand that feeling of, you know, you put so much time and effort and energy and just you're all into this person. When you finally start feeling like it's not working anymore. I mean, once again, this is the question that's raised, right? Is it me? Is it you? Is it this relationship? Is this really right? Like, you question everything, and it's not as simple as just breaking up. It's never that simple when you've been with someone for so long.
No.
And that's really what this lyric is. It's like, I can't just break up with you. Like, I've put everything in, like everything we build. Do I just throw that away?
So relatable.
Or do I keep it because it feels like a waste of time to have done all of that only to lose it? But then this Phoenix lyric, my God, all those 3 lines that come after the Phoenix thing, like you just said, I mean, it's a perfect indication of her just being like, I'm fucking exhausted, having to always be the one to mend my gashes and to rise from the ashes. But
what a way to word it. Like, a phoenix is such a perfect symbolic.
No, it's just
for her, like, she is someone who always rises from the ashes. I mean, I rise up from the dead. I do it all the time.
Yeah,
in Look What You Made Me Do.
It's so perfectly metaphorical for everything that she does in her life. You know, it's the re-recordings and having had all her albums stolen from her. It's the Reputation era. I rise up from the dead. I do it all the time. It's changing genres, changing eras with every album. She never stays the same. She never gives us the same thing. She's
mending all her gashes.
No.
You know, always getting through it, always processing. This is actually one of the most concerning lyrics she's ever written. Maybe one of my favorites ever of all time. This song is so superior. Every single thing she says is
No, I love that line, mending all her gashes, because once again, throughout Midnights, like with Anti-Hero, we've got this exploration of her being the problem. But here she's really like, she's actually really sticking up for herself here. She's really like, no, I am the one that is the constant in my life.
Yeah.
You're on your own, kid. I am the one who's always here picking up the pieces in my life. When everyone decided that they fucking hated me and thought I was a snake, I got through that. Yeah. When someone I worked with for 15 years sold my entire life's work from under me, I got through that.
This
Are you
lyric,
fucking joking?
I am literally never going to recover. The chorus is simple, and like I said in our Dear Reader breakdown, there's a few choruses like this on Midnights where it really feels like the music is stopping, everything's stripping back. But particularly for this one, we really just have that heartbeat carrying it, and it's like you're really focusing on the stop. You're losing me. That's repeated three times before she says, I can't find a pulse, my heart won't start anymore. And then the For You.
Yeah, no, the For You is really fucked up.
The For You is really fucked up and really interesting, because I think that it's kind of highlighting that maybe it will start again, but for him, there's too much history.
Yeah, it's not working.
I like that, because I think that it's a really relatable feeling when you get to that point in the relationship. It's like, it's for you that it won't start again, because there's so much history of us trying to make this work that it's actually, it builds up, you know? Yeah. It builds up, and it's so difficult to get through that sometimes.
Yeah, once you've established a dynamic with somebody, you learn how they were and who that version of them is. And it can sometimes get to a point where we've gone through this repetition so many times with your patterns and your behaviors. We can't undo that anymore.
Totally.
There's like a resentment that builds. It's
totally.
Very, very difficult to undo.
It takes so much self-awareness.
Yeah.
It takes so much work from both parts.
Yeah.
And if the other person isn't doing the work, it's impossible.
And that's what it really feels like this song is. It's like, you're not doing enough to try.
No.
I've written a whole fucking album.
Yeah.
Trying.
Explaining my part in
trying to make this work. Can I just say as well, like the repetition of stop, you're losing me, I think is like, it's kind of like the repetition of, are we out of the woods yet? Yeah. Like, I think it really brings the main message to light, but also just what that line means. Like, to me, I really feel like it's that last ditch, like, desperation, like, stop, please stop what you're doing, because everything that you do and say to me is pushing me further away, and the more that you do it, the more you're losing me.
Totally.
I need you to stop.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, because she's also in this song asking him to do something, but I don't know, just with these lyrics, I wonder if it's sort of just like,
the stop is interesting. I think what I more get from it is like, stop going about this how you're like, stop just thinking that this is okay. You're losing me. Like, she's kind of trying to get his attention with that stop.
That makes a lot of sense too.
You're losing me.
Yeah. It does seem to be that more often than not, it's the woman who really is trying to spell out like what
the
it
problems.
is that needs to change. And because they stick around in the relationship trying to make it change, the man can misinterpret that as they'll always be here, so I don't have to change. Like, you can nag me all you want, you can ask me to change all you want, but I'm not going to change because it's comfortable for me to stay the same, and you're going to stay with me. And she's like, no, I'm actually not, though. I think that's just so fucking relatable.
It is.
Like, how many women have been in this situation, you know, where it's
you're
like,
right.
I
That's
will
why that stop is important.
leave. I will leave. You know, it even reminds me of
Tolerate
it. Yeah. What would you do if I break free and leave us in ruins, took this dagger in me and removed it, gained the weight of you, then lose it? Believe me, I could do it.
No, it's really interesting that she's playing that on tour.
It is very interesting. And I don't necessarily know if I believe that, like, it could be about Joe or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's slightly inspired by it. I don't know.
Anyway, let's go on to this next verse.
Yes, let's go into it.
This verse is really concerning.
No, it is. Every morning I glared at you with storms in my eyes. How can you say that you love someone you can't tell is dying?
I think this really tells us a lot about the long-term breakdown of this relationship. The storm could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be crying, it could be tears.
Even
in the relationship.
The word glared is a very specific choice in my mind. She could have just said, every morning I looked at you with storms in my eyes, but she glared. Glaring at someone is not positive.
It's not positive. No.
You know, so it really, I think, emphasizes the feeling in the air here.
Yeah.
And then to continue that with, how can you say that you love someone you can't tell is dying? Like, I really think that she's spelling out, she's spelling out the fact that he is ignoring what's going on here. Like, I'm glaring at you with storms in my eyes and I am dying, and you choose to not pay attention to this. And that's what these lyrics that are, you know, in elsewhere in Midnights that really highlight Joe not being maybe super perceptive or like, you know, what's the word? Just like not wanting to pay attention, or like very quiet and stuff. We have it in Lavender Haze, staring at the ceiling with you. You don't ever say too much. We have it in Paris, sit quiet by my side in the shade.
In Lavender Haze though, where you don't really read into my melancholia.
Yes, you don't really read into it. Yeah,
that's really interesting. And you know, I find Lavender Haze so interesting now in contrast to like Dear Reader and this, like the start of the album being about wanting to stay in this lavender haze. Like, I wonder if in a way that was also her way of like kind of processing that she doesn't want to face what is actually happening in this relationship. I just want to stay in that lavender haze, please. Yeah, just because I actually can't deal with what's happening. And maybe that's also why she focused so much at the beginning of their relationship in general, because
that's when things were great.
The actual reality of their compatibility might not have been as romantic, you know?
Totally.
And I really relate to this. Like, the feeling of being with someone that maybe you have a lot of chemistry with actually overrides the reality of your compatibility.
She's kind of said it from the start. She says in Paper Rings, I'm with you even if it makes me blue. It's like she's really fathoming that, like, you know, there's something about this that isn't fully right, but like, I'm with you anyway. Like, I really want to make this work. And honestly, like, jumping back to the him being quiet thing, it's even in like Sweet Nothing. Like, you're in the kitchen humming, all that you ever wanted from me was sweet nothing. And
it's a very concerning lyric in Paper Rings.
No, it's a very concerning lyric. And Paper Rings we will also get back into in relation to the song, but can I just say that these lyrics that are strung all throughout Midnights about Joe being quiet, and it's honestly there from the beginning, it's on Reputation. Here's to my baby, he ain't reading what they call me lately. I think it really brings us back to this concept of like, the things that you love about someone are also the things you hate about someone, you know,
especially in Sweet Nothing.
What she was drawn to him for was the fact that he didn't read into her melancholia, into like the fact that he didn't read what they called me lately, the fact that he didn't really care that much about what was happening in all of this, and the fact that she was a celebrity and she's Taylor Swift and she's a pop star and she's very famous and stuff, and that would have been very like humbling and grounding for her. And that's how she describes him. Even in Miss Americana, she says that at the time she was falling in love with someone who had a very grounded, normal life. That's part of the reason, why she was drawn to him. But it's also showing up in this song as, you're not doing anything. You're not paying attention. You're not actually caring enough.
You're not caring if I'm dying. Once again, Midnights, I feel like she's trying to make sense of things, right? She's trying to understand how she feels in this relationship. by revisiting her past, but also maybe trying to hone in on moments of where she feels good with Joe. And I think that Sweet Nothing is her trying to make sense of that. Like, she's like, you are my peace, you are my quiet, you are kind of this rock, you humble me, you don't play into my games. I think is a really important part of it as well. Like, you know, she wrote Afterglow on Lover because she's like, I feel like he doesn't respond to her fire kind of thing. He meets her in that afterglow, but also he kind of checks her a little bit, you know. He wasn't playing into her games like a lot of other guys, which I think is part of the reason she's so attracted to him.
I think so too. It's really interesting to see people even refathoming Sweet Nothing, because I think people are starting to look at it from maybe there being a bit more of a negative perspective, and I understand that even with the perspective of this song sort of playing into it, but I do really still take it as a big positive. Maybe there were elements of this not being the perfect relationship all along, and I think that there is, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Joe was able to offer her something that she'd never had before that was very important to her growth and her mental health.
Totally. I completely agree. I think Sweet Nothing is interesting because I'm like, I wonder if there is that resentment coming out in some moments or lyrics in the song, like, all that you ever wanted from me was nothing. Like, the way that she kind of says that is interesting, especially with the marriage lyric coming at the end here. Like, maybe her kind of implying that you want nothing from me, and then does it tip an edge? You want nothing from me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I like that you want nothing from me, but wait, why don't you want anything from me?
Yeah, like, where does that... Yeah. Anyway, the rest of this verse is really just her talking about the signals that we're kind of were saying. Like, I sent you signals and bit my nails down to the quick. My face was grey, but you wouldn't admit that we were sick. Really interesting, because like the biting the nails is like that anxious kind of like signal or sign that you're not feeling good. And you know, the quick is actually like that little white bit under your nail, just in case anyone didn't know.
Thank you so much. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I only knew this because I have a dog, and like whenever you go to the vet, they say we can't cut her quick. Like, you have to be really careful about like cutting her nails and not getting her quick.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my face was grey, but you wouldn't admit that we were sick is another kind of reference back to like being sick, hospital, emergency room. They are definitely, you know, just about to maybe die.
Yeah, absolutely. And the you wouldn't admit that we were sick ties in perfectly with like, how can you say that you love someone you can't tell is dying, and I glared at you with storms in my eyes. Like, I'm sending you signals, but you're not paying attention.
His avoidant nature, potentially. Trying to avoid the problem. Don't read into the melancholia.
Yeah. And then there's the next pre-chorus. Absolutely fucking offensive. No. As we said earlier, and the air is thick with loss and indecision really feels like that embodies what the entire Midnight's album is. Her trying to sort through what's going on so that a decision can be made, because the air is thick with indecision. Like, no one can really finally call it quits.
Totally.
So I've got to do some exploration to figure out what the right decision is.
Which is why she's awake at night.
Yeah.
She cannot make a choice.
Yeah.
Everything is just... I love this next lyric as well. I know my pain is such an imposition. Really brings me back to like that maybe like avoidant, anxious nature, because like she feels all of these things and she brings them up to him all the time. And if she didn't do that, there would be fucking peace, you know? Like,
totally.
There wouldn't
it's kind of like a stepping back into some of the other things that she explores on Midnights, where she's trying to take accountability for why there's something wrong. It's like, I know I'm over the top. I know that, like, it's easy for you to even deny this is happening, so that we can maintain this relationship and this peace, but I'm pain to bring it up. Is what's stirring this breakup.
Totally.
Really.
Yes.
So my pain is actually the reason that we're even trying to have this discussion in the first place. Therefore, it is an imposition.
I think it's also a bit of sarcasm in there as well, because kind of like the first lyric, like, I know my pain is such an imposition. Like, you can't deal with my emotions.
Yeah.
And this is why we keep going round and round and round and round, because like, you don't understand.
Yeah, totally agree. These next lyrics. Now you're running down the hallway and you know what they all say. You don't know what you got until it's gone. This is so fascinating because I think naturally for a lot of us, the running down the hallway lyric really brings us back to Hits Different. Is that your key in the door down the hallway? I kind of get that same imagery in my mind, and whether or not she meant it in the same way, I don't really know, but it's just interesting that she uses the hallway lyric.
It definitely brings up both, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This lyric for me, I think really feels like she's saying, oh, now you're running down the hallway. You know what they all say. You don't know what you got till it's gone. Like, maybe he's coming back. Maybe he is running. Or maybe, you know, once I've actually said this to you, you're like trying to go back on it, or you're trying to make amends, but it's not actually what I need. I don't know. That's why
you sort of take it as though it's like he's finally fathoming that you don't know what you've got till it's gone, and he's realizing that he's losing her, so maybe there's a moment of him trying to fight for her.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and that's why this lyric is so interesting, because that makes perfect sense. But the way that I also take it is like, now you're running down the hallway, maybe they've just had another fight, her pain is such an imposition, he's leaving, and then she's realizing you don't know what you've got until it's gone. You know, he's just left down the hallway, and maybe this is why she's scared that her pain is an imposition, and that this is her feelings about all of this is going to be the final straw for them, because now that he's just finally left down the hallway, she's there by herself fathoming. Oh my god, it could be either, but it could be either. It's really interesting to think about, isn't it?
We have a little post-chorus after the chorus, which I really like, actually. It's a bit of extra space, and like before we go into the bridge, which is the most concerning part of the song, obviously.
No, this bridge. Oh my god.
How long could we be a sad song till we were too far gone to bring back to life?
No.
This is so fucking concerning for multiple reasons. Obviously, Taylor Swift writes a lot of sad songs. Obviously, they have bonded over sad music before. She's said that to us a few times.
Yeah. And written a lot of sad songs together.
But they've written sad songs together, guys. Yeah. This is so fucked up. Like, what if she's referencing here Champagne Problems, Exile, Coney Island? Like, it's so concerning that she's saying this, because I at the time when they were writing those sad songs together, we all thought, how could they write such sad songs when they're so happy together? But maybe there has always been an element of sharing their feelings like this to this level, and also an element of insecurity in the relationship. Like, we know with False God, she says this could maybe not work.
Yeah,
might be a false god. There's always been signs and hints that she hasn't been 100% sure, which I think to some degree we as fans romanticized them having this perfect kind of relationship, when there has been so many signs that they have had struggles for a long time.
Well, I think this is why this is such a clever lyric, because I also think that, like, even though in the songs that she's written about them, aside from the sad songs they've written together, there's been moments and lines here and there that might indicate that things are wrong. But overall, there's a very positive energy in how she has written about Joe historically. And I think that it's really interesting even to think about it from that perspective, like, and how long the breakdown of this relationship might have lasted, because there could be so many other songs that she's written about him during this time that were all sad, and she's literally like, how long can I keep writing sad songs about you when I used to only write happy, positive ones about you, before I actually grasp that this is no longer working,
coming back to life?
How long can we be a sad song?
Yeah.
It's a very good lyric.
It's a very good lyric as well, because even just in general, it's a relatable lyric. Like, how long can we be a sad song? Like, maybe a song that represents, like, the breakdown of a relationship.
Yeah.
How long can we sit in that before we realize we can't come back to life?
Totally.
And I think as someone who, you know, when you're going through a breakup and you're maybe about to end, like, maybe for a while you are really relating to a really sad song.
Totally. It's like, how long can I relate to these sad songs? Like, I want to relate to the happy love songs again.
Until I can let it go, until I can actually accept it. How long can I be a sad song? It's such a fucked up lyric. Oh my God.
It is.
And this is a sad song as well, so to put that in...
No, it's actually really just fucked up.
Perfect. It's so superior.
I gave you all my best me's, my endless empathy, and all I did was bleed as I tried to be the bravest soldier. I need to keep going, fighting in only your army. Front lines, don't you ignore me. I'm the best thing at this party. What the fuck is that flow of lines? It's so deeply concerning.
I gave you all my best me's. First of all, it makes me think of the song Me.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite a sad song when you look at just the lyrics, because she's actually taking a lot of accountability in that song for being a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But also saying, you'll never find another like me. So maybe she's trying to say there, like, I gave you all my best me's. Like, I actually took a lot of accountability and endless empathy in a lot of the songs I've written about you, in a lot of the sad songs as well that I've written about you, which kind of refers back to that first lyric where she's written, you know, the Great War and Peace and Afterglow, and she's taken so much accountability and given him a lot of empathy and put him in the good light.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so fucked up by that lyric.
It is. And I really like that she is actually, once again here, she's doing the opposite of what she does throughout the rest of Midnights, which is trying to explore her own role in the breakdown of the relationship. She's really, once again here, trying to be like, no, like, I've done a lot here.
All I did was bleed as I tried to be the bravest soldier, fighting in only your army, frontline. Don't you ignore me. This feels like such a callback to the Great War.
Yes.
She was bleeding, she was hurting, but she was still trying to be on his side. She was fighting in his army.
Yeah.
Which I really feel like is symbolic of just her trying to understand herself, all of the self-loathing themes on Midnights, trying to fathom her role in the relationship and putting and taking that blame. I'm bleeding, fighting for you, and you're not fighting for me.
Yeah. And just like,
don't you ignore me. That avoidant tendency of going away, of looking away, looking the other way.
Yeah, which really just calls back into the rest of these lyrics about like him just not paying attention. It's just like, you're just not even trying to see that something's wrong here. Like, you would rather just ignore that we are sick.
And that following lyric after that is so interesting as well. Like, don't you ignore me, I'm the best thing at this party. I think that that's so interesting because Bejeweled, you know, she is the best thing at this party. Like, she's fucking Taylor Swift. Like, look at me. But also, like, I'm the best thing at this party. Like, I'm the one doing this work between the relationship, which I know we've talked about before.
Yes.
It's such a fucked up lyric.
It's such a fucked up lyric.
I'm fighting for this. And that little backing vocal, you're losing me, coming in straight after that is really interesting as well.
So fucked up.
And I think that that's a good way to break up that part of the bridge, because the next lyric, and I wouldn't marry me either, is kind of a contrast to that I'm the best thing at this party.
Yeah.
And I think that that's actually really clever. Even though it's contradicting it, I think it's kind of showing the way that you can flip when you're trying to understand a situation.
Totally.
Or when you're like, going through your mind, like, is it me? Is it them?
Yeah, well, once again, I feel like she's kind of flipping back into where she's been throughout the rest of Midnights, which is trying to take accountability and understand her own role in this.
A reason or blame.
And knowing that she can be frustrating sometimes, and that like he is valid in maybe feeling that. But this is just such an interesting lyric, and I think is another one of those ones that's really made us refathom a lot of what's going on Midnights. Obviously, especially Lavender Haze. And we do sort of talk about this a little bit in our reaction to the song as well. Just the fact that like Lavender Haze is so focused on like, you know, the 1950s shit they want from me, and like all they keep asking me is if I'm going to be your bride. And it's really interesting because I think when we all heard first Lavender Haze, we sort of assumed that it's like maybe this isn't something that she wants herself, or maybe she's really happy just being in her relationship without it being without it needing to be taken to that next level.
But maybe it's actually showing up in that way because she's feeling frustrated herself that she wants marriage and it hasn't been happening yet. So she's kind of trying to like be like, oh, they keep asking me if I want to be your bride, I don't care, kind of thing. But
or just
actually,
kind of like you said before about Lavender Haze, that like, you know, just wanting to stay in that Lavender Haze
ignore the problem
is like, just trying to ignore the problem, and it could just be like her trying to convince herself that that's not something that she wants, because she knows that like agreeing with maybe his desire to not get married is what's going to keep them together, just keep the peace and not rock the boat in this relationship too much. Like, me being with you is more important to me than like having it on a piece of paper that we're married. But this really kind of flips that narrative. It kind of makes you feel like maybe that is something that she wanted, or rather that it could just be that she's almost hurt by the fact that like it might be her own tendencies or his lack of maybe wanting to commit to forever.
Well, the way
that
it's delivered, like, and I wouldn't marry me either, a pathological people pleaser who only wanted you to see her. I think she goes through a lot of emotions in this lyric. I wouldn't marry me either feels like it feels really anger filled, but also frustrated and like kind of passive aggressive. Because obviously that's the first time she's really giving us a hint that he didn't want to marry her, because she's like agreeing with his opinion. Such a clever way of telling us that.
It is, isn't it?
A really clever way of telling us that. But she's still trying to make it like, well, I kind of see why you didn't want to marry me, because I've got all these issues and all these problems. And
but it's hurtful for that reason too. It's not delivered in a way that's like, no, you don't have a desire to ever be married in your life. It's you specifically don't want to marry me, but maybe you would get married in your lifetime with somebody else. And which I think is where it's like, it almost can be hurtful, and almost like those lyrics, not only could they could be her kind of agreeing with him if he feels this way, but it also could be sarcastic again. It's like, a pathological people pleaser who only wanted you to see her. Like, it's like, I am actually really insulted that you didn't want to marry me when, like, I'm out here writing lover in paper rings, like ready to marry you at the drop of a hat the second I look at your fucking face. And you don't want to marry me because I'm so annoying all the time.
It's so sad with those lyrics, isn't it? With the songs that she has on Lover about marriage, we kind of thought maybe that wasn't actually what she wanted, but this lyric shows us that probably was, and he didn't want to give her that. And I find this really interesting with the pathological people pleaser who only wanted you to see her, because I think there could be multiple ways of kind of taking this lyric. I think she could be a people pleaser because I think she's always kind of been the good girl. She's always wanted to do, you know, right and be seen as good and right.
And I think she really touches on that in Mastermind. Especially in the bridge. It's like, I will do what everyone else wants to make you love me and make it seem effortless.
I wonder if she is maybe talking about her want to continue to make music and be a people pleaser, like pleasing the masses of being a pop star. And he wanted her to step away from that. I wouldn't marry me either, a pathological people pleaser. Like, I want to keep... He sees it as maybe that's what he sees her as. He's like, you can't step away from this. Like, you just have to keep doing that. I don't know. I just think it's interesting.
I think from that perspective, it ties in well to Bejeweled as well, because... you know, like, who only wanted you to see her. It's like, especially going back to that, you know, wanting to embrace her stardom and her success and maybe being more public again and stuff. It even kind of ties into, again, which is where I first brought up Bejeweled, the first line, you say I don't understand and I say I know you don't. It's like, I only wanted you to see me, which is like fully embrace and see that, like, I want you, but I also want my career and I want to be able to immerse myself in it whilst also having you. But you sort of see it as like...
You see it as this, like, something else.
You see it as something else, like people pleasing.
Exactly,
and you don't understand.
No.
I only wanted you to see me.
I only wanted
you to see her.
Exactly.
Like, you don't get it, and I know you don't.
Exactly. This is where the most offensive shift happens in this bridge as well. Coming right off that marriage lyric. Oh, and I'm fading thinking. I love those lyrics and the build into what she says next, because she's just said, like, the marriage lyric, and then she's like, and I'm fading, thinking, do something, babe. Say something. God. Lose something, babe. Risk something. Obviously, she wants him to be doing something. This whole kind of song is about how he's ignoring it. He's not really understanding what she needs.
Pay attention.
She wants him to pay attention. Something. She wants to stand up for the relationship. She wants him to fight for the relationship.
I think for me, I take that second line, like the lose something, babe, risk something, as I think about it back in that narrative of him being somebody who lives like a quiet life and doesn't want all the fame and the success and the publicity that comes with her, and her wanting to step back into that with a song like Bejeweled. I think that, like, you know, if this is part of the reason why they broke up, and it's maybe just not the lifestyle or the, you know, the attention that he wanted from his life. And that might even, you know, come back to the marriage lyric as well. It's like, I can't marry you because I don't want that spotlight on me. Like, I can't live like that. It's just not who I am.
Yeah.
You know, I think that choose something, babe, risk something is like, you know, her gaining this success since Folklore came out and wanting to step back into that spotlight again and maybe wanting to do it with him, the risking something, like sacrifice something.
Yeah.
Like, I've done it your way
Compromise.
for so many years. I've been indoors with you. I've stayed indoors with you to make this work, to protect me, protect you, protect our relationship. And now I finally want to do something different and you're just wanting to stay there. And it's like, I want you to sacrifice just something in your life. I want you to risk not having the safety and the security that comes with not being in the spotlight so that you can do something that I want for once. Because I've spent this relationship doing what you want to do.
Totally. That makes so much sense. I really, I totally agree.
And then, like, you know.
But then also, like, choose something. Like, I think, like, in general, like, her yelling these things at him, it just makes so much sense for his personality type, I think, in general. Like, I don't think he's ever really wanted to take a risk. I don't feel like he's ever really wanted to put himself out there, like, for her and, like, kind of do that for her. So I think it makes a lot of sense that she's asking this of him. And especially if he's not someone who is super emotional or expressive in that way. I think as someone who is a bit of a, like, relates to Taylor, I've definitely felt that I just want them to fucking do something, you know, like, just fucking be a little bit, and I think that can also be like her reactiveness as well. Like, I want you to react to me. I want you to not just shut down.
It's kind of like what you said before, like, he doesn't play into her games and her reactivity, but she's like really asking him and like fighting for him to do that, even though it's actually not in his nature. And I think that that's where it's also like, maybe it could be less of like a, you're not doing anything and like that's a problem because you're not doing enough, and more just like a show of their incompatibility. It's like, he's just not this kind of person. He just doesn't want all of this. And the coming out of the pandemic and into this new lifestyle with her going back on tour and releasing Midnights and everything, it's like, this is just not what I signed up for. And this was working for us for a long time because it's also what she wanted when everyone hated her and when she couldn't do anything anyway because there was a pandemic happening outside. But now it's not working, and he's like, and maybe it's like, it's like, I think that it absolutely could be that he's just not doing enough. And it is from her perspective, but it also could just be like him just being like, this is not me. Well, and I cannot change myself.
That's what's hard to know, and also why it's hard to make a decision about this stuff, because is it her? Is it him? Is it just an incompatibility? And is he actually not doing something to step up and kind of, you know, show that he loves her, or is he just not reacting to her games and whatnot?
Yeah,
so
well,
that's
and I
what's
think
really
that's
hard
why
to
it
tell.
can all sort of just be, it really just comes down to incompatibility, right? Because in her perception of her opinion is that he's not doing enough.
Yes.
But that just might be because he's not the right person for her.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like we go very like psychological with these
do.
things. And but I also think it makes sense that we do, because I think a lot of these things have been stuff that we're talking about in real life, because I feel like I have been in a very similar kind of situation with my relationship over the last 2 years. So I think it's hard for us to not like maybe relate it back to that, and it's probably something that you guys are doing in your life as well, so hopefully you find that relatable. Or
I mean, this is just how our brains work. Like, we relate to Taylor Swift songs and try to understand them in a way that we try to understand ourselves, and that is having discussions about psychology and human experiences and emotions and why we do things and all of this. Like, this is just how we
but like
operate.
You said, we didn't really make sense of this album until this one came out, and I feel so seen with this song. I actually can't believe she's written something like this, because I didn't quite fathom that this is how she was feeling in the relationship. But isn't it interesting because there are so many songs that like even you on a personal level have related to with Taylor Swift, but it's like the things that she hasn't said to us publicly in a song, you still don't really know if she's actually experiencing it, but then you get it and you're like, of course, I've related to all of this and I'm so similar in this way. It makes perfect sense that you'd also feel all of this. Absolutely. And I think why Midnights is so special is because I was literally asking myself the exact same questions in my relationship.
Yeah.
How long did I try to understand if it was me that was the problem?
Is it me? Is it you? Is it us? Is it incompatibility?
It's so hard to know, because if you are trying to be self-aware, you do have a lot of things that you bring to a relationship.
You can't just deny any involvement from your own side.
No.
You have to consider it as an option. Otherwise, you're never going to have a successful relationship in any form, any connections in your life.
No.
You're never going to grow.
And I think with this song that's so interesting is that she is really showing us that desperation for her needs to be met. But I love that she gave us the songs that explored her psyche and whatnot first. Like, I think giving us Anti-Hero first, of her kind of claiming that she is the problem, is really interesting. And then getting this one later on, where it has a lot more of that raw emotion just around how she was feeling, is so insightful.
Absolutely.
And, you know, finishing off that bridge, choose something, babe. I've got nothing to believe unless you're choosing me. Oh my God.
What a fucked up thing for her to end with. As like,
end it.
We've actually spoken about this in a few of the Midnight breakdowns, but like the last new lyric that you get in a song, this is the last new lyric in this song. I've got nothing to believe unless you're choosing me. And that's, again, I think really brings us back to like how devastating this was for her. You know, it's like, I made you my world. Like, I have built everything around this relationship because I thought you were my forever again, and like I got nothing to believe. Also, like, false god, don't blame me, this narrative that she's stuck to in this relationship with, like, I believe in you, I believe in us, I believe in our relationship, like, this is a God to me. Like, this is my religion. And now I've got nothing to believe unless you're choosing me, because nothing makes sense to me unless you're choosing me, because this is all I've done is choose you.
And I think the themes in this song of like doing something, choosing something, saying something is really showing that he was not. And the seeing as well, like seeing her, like she wanted to be seen, that he was not actually accepting her whole being. And maybe that was the pop star version of her, as well as the at-home version of her. Maybe he wasn't actually ready to fully accept everything that she is. Which is so sad. It's so sad that that's that last lyric of that bridge. And I love how she flows into that as well, because it's like the lose something, say something, choose something, and then the nothing to believe unless you're choosing me is such a new little string of a melody and a sentence at the end of the bridge that brings us so perfectly out of the bridge. I don't know how she wrote this.
No, it's very, 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 very concerning. Very concerning.
Choose me. Choose me. Choose all of me.
Yeah, it's really just like that unconditional love wasn't there, and I think that makes so much sense.
Unconditional love, yes, that
makes so much sense for that to be so devastating for her, because I feel like she was really trying to love him unconditionally this whole time, and again, choosing him, believing in him, believing in this false god. What did you even say in Cornelia Street? Sacred new beginnings became my religion. It's like, and she's linked back to that belief narrative so many times with Joe, and like, I mean, we literally on tour, like when she starts singing "Don't Blame Me," we're like, "Take me to church, bitch." Like, she's literally like, this relationship is my religion.
And you know, of course, this song links to Cornelia Street as well with the losing. Like, it's so sad that her back in Lover, when she imagined this relationship breaking down, and she wrote Cornelia Street, her saying, "I hope I never lose you, I hope it never ends," and then for the reality to be him losing her because he won't show up, is really fucking sad.
But you know what I will say, just to round off this song, is that there is a beauty in her choosing herself in this situation. You know, it's not that she blindly stayed in this when it wasn't working because all that she wanted was him, and she just let herself get lost in this while he continues to not choose her. She recognized that this wasn't working and that he wasn't choosing her and that he was losing her. Totally. And she said, no, I'm choosing myself because you're not choosing me.
You know, that's a really, really important distinction to make about this song. It's not just the breakdown of the relationship, and it's not just about breaking up with someone. It's about recognizing that what someone else is doing is not enough for you, and that they're losing you, and that you can feel that, and that's sad, and that's a horrible feeling to feel. This song creates the space to really feel that, and it's not pleasant, but it is recognizing it, and it is choosing herself. It is choosing that she wants something different. She wants to feel different.
This is no longer enough, and so I'm making that decision to call you out on not actually showing up for me in the way that I need you to.
Well, that's pretty much You're Losing Me. I mean, obviously we have the chorus there last again, and something that's important to note is that the last time she says, I can't find a pulse, the heartbeat disappears, and then she just says, my heart won't start anymore. So the pulse does end at the end of that song, which is really symbolic of...
She's dead.
Her being dead.
She has died.
The love being dead, the relationship being dead. And obviously her giving us this song is that as well. And, you know, Taylor's really been going through it, I think. Obviously she started a new kind of fling with Maddie Healy, and then that's over. And the last few shows, it feels like she's really been going through it when she's been singing the secret songs. So I do think she's still really processing this. So glad she gave us this song. I think it was so necessary to tie together Midnights, and just such a relatable song that she's never written about like this before. I'm so glad she gave it to us. It's so offensive, melodically, lyrically, emotionally, necessary.
Is the best song on Midnight.
It is the best song on Midnight.
For me, it's gone straight to the top of my ranking. I think it's the same for you. Like, you guys know how I felt about High Infidelity, and I'm so sorry, but this song is better. You guys know how I felt about The Great War and You're on Your Own Kid. I can't believe this song's better than You're on Your Own Kid. It just simply is. Because once again, this song is that missing link to help us understand the concept of Midnights, and that is the link. That is the link.
That is the link that we really needed. I think to just finish this video off, I think we should just go back through the songs on the album just like briefly and be like, if there's anything that we wanted to add about them. Obviously, Lavender Haze, we kind of have touched on a little bit of a re-fathoming of that, how she really just wanted to stay in that lavender haze, maybe.
And definitely sort of re-looking at it like maybe a bit of a in denial of the fact that things are ending, and wanting to stay in the lavender haze, and in denial of maybe the reasons why he doesn't want to marry her, and wanting to agree with that even if she doesn't truly
believe it,
agree with the marriage stance that he was taking. Maroon, we still feel strongly, is a reflection on Red, and she actually said before she performed Maroon as a secret song that it was something happened a long time ago in New York, and so we do still feel that that's what that is.
Maybe trying to refathom that in light of her breakdown of her current relationship. Antihero, we know, is very much a fathoming of her self-loathing, her role in the relationship, and no wonder the insecurities of him leaving. One day I'll watch as you're leaving because you got tired of my scheming. No wonder that insecurity was coming up when she's feeling the breakdown of their relationship happening. Things aren't working anymore. I feel strongly that I'm going to watch as you're leaving. Walking down the hallway. I'm like,
you're like, where? Now you're running down the hallway. I'll watch as you're leaving. I don't know. Snow on the Beach is a funny one. We did initially take this as a Joe song, and you know, maybe it still is, and could have been maybe more reflective of the happier times. But I think it is also important to remember that it is co-written with Jack and Lana, and like you said before, Jack and Lana also wrote the song Margaret, which is on Lana's new album. That's very much so about Jack and his relationship with Margaret Qualley.
It could just be about that initial stages of falling for someone, and maybe it's not a particular person in general. So that's interesting. Obviously, You're on Your Own Kid makes a lot of sense now. Her trying to come to terms with being on her own again. And
and the fact that she may be, like, I might be leading to singledom again.
Singledom. The town of singledom.
The town of singledom. And just, you know, really recognizing the fact that she is the one mending all her gashes, you know, throughout it all, throughout everything that's happened to me. I am the one doing it. I'm on my own. And no matter what connections or relationships I have in my life, it is up to me to take that initiative to control my own narrative.
And maybe that lyric, you know, even more so with the I thought I'd be saved by a perfect kiss really does link to that relationship with Joe, because he was the one, you know, and she
ending
thought that
the
would
bridge
heal her.
with make the friendship bracelets. She's focused on friendships rather than the love of her life.
Yes.
Midnight Rain, I think that we're still sort of on that, you know, probably about Tom Hiddleston, maybe Taylor Lautner narrative. We feel like it's just another one of the examples on this album of her reflecting on a past relationship to help understand sort of what her role in it was. I broke his heart because he was nice. Why did I do that? What did I do in that relationship? What am I doing differently in this current relationship?
Yeah.
Question is an interesting one.
Question is still one of the biggest questions on this album. You know, Taylor's such an interesting one. A few weeks ago, she played this on tour and she said, my life finally makes sense.
And she said that this song brings back a lot of happy memories for her.
And at first we thought, okay, maybe this song was kind of about Maddie Healy, because we know he was writing on Midnights with her. They maybe might have had a thing in the past. Maybe writing with him again has sparked this question that she wants to kind of ask him. But then I'm like, maybe those happy memories she was referring to was just like being in the studio with everyone, because we know the backing vocals with the cheering and stuff.
Yeah, we've got Jack's sister, Taylor's brother, and Dylan O'Brien contributing to backing vocals in the production.
Maybe it was just a good time.
Yeah, and you know, as well, like even linking back to what we initially thought with the link to Out of the Woods and maybe it being about Harry Styles. I mean, we know that Harry is one of the exes that she's still friendly with. We have evidence of them interacting with each other at awards shows and stuff. So like maybe it just was a happier relationship, or she doesn't feel heartbroken or upset or hurt when she thinks back at that relationship.
I really don't understand Question. Please give us some thoughts if you feel like you do.
Vigilante shit is still just vigilante shit. You know, I really feel like it focuses heavily on the revenge that she wants Scooter Braun, Scott Borchetta, Kanye West.
Just that fantasizing about revenge. And, you know, I was thinking this morning when I was listening to it, it really makes sense that Vigilante Shit was written after Mad Woman. I think Mad Woman was like the initial thought process of that, and like her saying the Master of Spin has a couple side flings, and then her in Vigilante Shit fantasizing about exposing that side fling, I think is really interesting. Very interesting. So those two songs are really linked in my mind, and it makes sense that that natural progression happened. Bejeweled, obviously we've touched in this video on the fact that we do look at this very differently now, and we actually do kind of feel like it was maybe the more feisty side of her in the breakdown of this relationship with Joe, just being like, no, I am Bejeweled. I will embrace my success. Literally, don't you dare try and hold me back from doing that. I'm the best thing at this party. No, You're Losing Me really nods back to all the other songs in little ways like that, which is why it feels like it's connecting all of the songs together. Yeah, absolutely. You're Losing Me throughout this album. You're Losing Me. Labyrinth is an interesting one. We thought maybe for a second there, whilst the whole Maddie thing was happening, that maybe it could have been like a rekindling of that connection whilst they were writing songs for Midnights together. But I also do think that there's a lot of room for this to still be a reminiscing on the beginnings of her relationship with Joe again. Yeah, I was thinking about this one again this morning. I think Labyrinth and Question are like the two ones that I'm really still trying to completely understand. I think that what gets me with Labyrinth is like, obviously in this song, she's referring to a breakdown of a relationship and she's referring to falling in love. I'm like, is it definitely this one person that she's talking about here? That's the question, really. That's the question. But I do think that maybe in trying to understand where her and Joe are at, like the breakdown of this relationship, and especially with Hits Different, maybe she was trying to reflect on the fact that this has happened before and that they did fall back in love, so maybe that will happen again. That's kind of where I'm sitting with Labyrinth at the moment. Yeah, it's kind of like with Lavender Haze as well. It's kind of like the denial phase. It's like, oh, we've made it work when we thought it wouldn't work once. Yes, and that's how that felt. Again. And I'm in the labyrinth of my mind now, and I'm thinking about that time in the past of when he turned the plane around. Will he turn it around again?
Yeah. And once again, just even the concept of labyrinth in her mind. You know, it's like, I recognize that I'm full of anxiety. I'm constantly overthinking things. This is part of my flaw, and maybe part of the reason why I'm experiencing this current breakdown in a relationship. So
totally.
like, you know, I want to recognize that in myself.
Yeah, that concept of labyrinth, really does make sense for the whole album, of just being lost in that thought process once again. Lost in this little flame of a thought.
Yes. Karma is still just karma in my mind. You know, it's like, good things come to me. Scott Borchetta, Scooter Braun, all of that. Sweet Nothing we touched on. I do still feel like it is meant to be mostly a positive song, but it is interesting how it does sort of touch on the things that we do think are also maybe part of the things that she has realized are contributing to the breakdown of the relationship as well. Just not doing enough.
Not doing enough. Just a bit of nothing.
Mastermind hasn't really changed, but I do think it's interesting again to sort of lump it into that category. Even with like Anti-Hero, it's like, you know, really fathoming herself but trying to take a more positive spin on it. Like,
totally,
I make things happen for myself, and I do actually want to celebrate that, even though I'm also kind of self-loathing in this album.
Well, Mastermind was the first song we actually did break down after knowing that they had broken up. So I do think that from these songs out, we actually did kind of have a bit of an understanding of maybe where she might be coming from.
For the rest of the album, like, I don't really feel like a lot of our opinions have changed hugely.
No.
Like, we've obviously discussed a little bit today about The Great War, Bigger Than the Whole Sky, and Dear Reader.
Yeah, Bigger Than the Whole Sky, I think I'm fathoming a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think the more I think about it, I do think that maybe it falls into the alignment more of the breakup.
Yeah.
Because of that hits different connection that I feel like with the sadness is really interesting, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Obviously The Great War and You're Losing Me are like
very connected. Dear Reader and You're Losing Me, very connected. But yeah, nothing else really changes. You know, like Paris and Glitch are obviously trying to be more positive songs, and I think that might be why she took it off those two songs off the CD that she put You're Losing Me on, because they make the least sense in terms of like this narrative.
Midnights was obviously written over like a year and a half maybe. So obviously there's going to be zooming in on different feelings, different phases of the relationship breakdown, and it makes sense that we've got just all sorts of kind of things happening on there, because it's all sorts of things that are keeping her up, all sorts of things that she's just thinking about. It's so illegal. I think that you guys understand by now how fucking in love we are with this whole album. The concept is superior. Her mind is scary.
No,
I am concerned.
With all the clock and everything that she gave us, like, she was really trying to take us away from what the real message underlying this album was.
She's
like,
so sneaky.
I was so distracted by Midnights and the clock and like, and the re-recordings and all of it. That it's just like, I couldn't have ever seen what was hiding in plain sight. No,
she's hiding the breakup in plain sight.
It really is concerning.
And good on her, honestly. Taylor,
she did a good job of it.
You've done such a good job of sharing this with us.
Yes.
Of processing this and of trying to make sense of it all. And I really feel for her at the moment of still trying to go through that, because I can't even imagine how difficult it was to come to this conclusion.
As we said, she always picks herself. She always knows when it's time to go. She always has the most profound ability to understand where she's at, or at least try to make sense of where she's at, which is something that a lot of us cannot say for ourselves.
No.
And this is why we love her. This is why we love her.
She really does teach.
She is a
Taylor,
teacher.
I'm sorry, but you are our guiding light.
You are.
And I
will not be finding another one.
Grateful for this album.
Well, on that note, I think that it's time for us to move into a new era.
Guys, what era could that be?
I don't know.
I wonder.
Guess we'll just have to wait and see for the next video.
Thank you guys for listening to us talk about Midnights for 26 hours or whatever it was.
Oh my God, a ridiculous amount of time.
We love you guys.
Love you.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Mwah.
Oh my god. Simply there's so much to say. I honestly could sit here and film a whole nother one.
I know.
Like, I could still do it. I could still have more to say if you really wanted me to say some more. I could.